right, welcome to Beginners Academy. We have a topic every other week. We have an audience on Zoom. Tonight's topic is, do you need an antenna analyzer? I'm Greg Lane. I'm N4KGL. I'm located in Dothan, Alabama. Uh, I'll go back. The little cartoon was generated by Copilot. So I'm assisted by artificial intelligence tonight, and some of the material is from Copilot. This is from Wikipedia. In radio engineering and telecommunications, standing wave ratio is a measure of impedance matching of loads to the characteristic impedance of a transmission line or waveguide. Impedance mismatches result in standing waves along the transmission line, and SWR is defined as the ratio of the partial standing wave amplitude at antinodes or maximum to the amplitude at a node minimum along the line. Well, that may have totally gone over your head, but uh, one of the most one important metric for antennas is standing wave ratio, and that's one of the functions of an antenna analyzer is to measure the standing wave ratio. So we'll take a look at this very simplified diagram of a transmitter. Could be a transceiver as well. A transmission line, also called a feed line. Typically, it's coax cable. And an antenna, we got a generic symbol for antenna. It could be a half-wave dipole, end-fed half-wave, any kind of antenna. And uh, we're going to assume the transmitter is designed to transmit into a 50 ohm load, and the coax is its characteristic impedance is 50 ohms. Now, if the antenna presents an impedance of 50 ohms, then your standing wave ratio is 1:1. There's no mismatch, and the RF leaving the transmitter is absorbed fully by the antenna. If there's a mismatch between the antenna and the transmission line, there'll be reflected RF going back down the line. And it turns out that the transmitted and the reflected on the line add together and create standing waves. And that's what the either SWR meter per se or antenna analyzer will measure. And now we're not going to get into the heavy technical side of SWR and transmission lines and everything. We're just trying to get the basic idea tied down. And for this, I use Copilot to help me. And SWR gives you an idea of how much reflected power you have, and measured by SWR. And the ideal SWR is 1:1. Okay, a perfect match. A perfect match is not required, as we can talk about. High SWR, let's say 3-to-1 or worse, indicates poor matching and more power is reflected back. But I am going to flip back to this diagram and say, um, for multi-band antennas and um, sometimes we tolerate a uh, medium or high SWR, something more than 2-to-1. And the 2-to-1 is significant because most transmitters will start reducing the power if the SWR is over 2-to-1. But there's a device which we've talked about before called an antenna tuner that could be added to this diagram. And that way, if your SWR with your antenna system is above 2-to-1, it could transform it to 50 ohms and your transmitter will be happy. All right. And it took me a long time to realize this, but this reflected RF does not disappear. Okay. And it doesn't necessarily heat up your transmitter. It actually gets reflected back down the line and it just keeps bouncing until it's absorbed. So um, there's things about SWR that keeps hams talking, and they don't always agree about their understanding of SWR. All right, well, how to measure SWR? Uh, you could use a dedicated SWR meter. It's a popular accessory. Usually they're not very expensive. Or um, often your transceiver will have a built-in SWR meter. Or better yet, you can use the antenna analyzer for full band sweeps and impedance data. All right. Well, here's a couple of SWR meters, and the one on the left, I believe, is the very model I started with in the late 60s. And these type meters were also used by CBers on 11 meters. And basically, you would flip the switch to forward, and then you would go key down or a carrier. Um, you would adjust the knob until the needle got to the maximum over on the right hand side. And that's done with the switch in the forward position. And then you would switch it to the reflected and it would give you your SWR. So you might find these meters at a tailgate or something like this. But with technology, microcontrollers and the such, um, an SWR meter is more likely to look at like the one on the right, have a digital display, um, and almost all the SWR meters also function as power meters. So um, actually, it's a good question. If your rig shows SWR, well, why would you need anything else? Well, we'll talk about that a little bit as we go. Here's a screenshot of the display of a radio like an ICOM 7300. And it's displaying the power and other parameters, and also SWR is a bar graph there. So that's an example of a built-in SWR meter. And these are antenna analyzers. I, I'll say more about the one on the right, but the one on the left, MFJ, produced really, I believe, the first SWR, or call it antenna analyzer. Uh, this is what it looked like. And frankly, there was nothing wrong with it. And it didn't use the most sophisticated technology, but it got the job done. And it fulfills the need. It doesn't do real sophisticated things, but it will help you for most functions you want to use analyzer for. The one in the middle is a model from Rig Expert. Uh, the company's in Ukraine, and it can do your basic SWR measurements, but it can do many other sophisticated things. Um, they can get expensive, particularly uh, the higher the frequency range. Um, if you just wanted to do HF, this one would do fine. It goes up to 35 megahertz. But if you want to do HF and VHF and UHF, you would pick another model and it would be more expensive. Now, the little device on the far right came along, and it is a very capable device. I believe it's called a network vector analyzer, and it will measure SWR and do the sophisticated things um, uh, like Smith charts and all kinds of things. Now, most hams aren't going to use the sophisticated thing, but the good news is the price can be under $100. So you're getting a whole lot of capability for a good price. So those have become very popular. And the name generally is a Nano VNA. I guess it's Vector Network Analyzer. So we're going to cover some advantages of antenna analyzers. Uh, we've already covered the concept of SWR. Um, Something important about your antenna system, excessive reflective power can damage your transmitter or final stages. Now, we're very fortunate in that most of our equipment has something called a power foldback, and the rig itself will detect a high SWR and reduce the power and protect itself. If you're using a homebrew rig or some type of inexpensive QRP um, transceiver, it might not have this protection. So um, now, this is a coax loss calculator, and an impact of a mismatch is actually uh, loss in the system in terms of watts. Okay. Or you can think of it in terms of dB. Okay. So this is an online calculator. I find it very useful. And if you pick your line type like RG8X, your line length, your frequency. This is for 20 meters. I put in a SWR of 3 and a power of 100, and the matched loss for that particular coax is 1.087 dB. All right. The additional loss due to SWR is 0.536 dB for total loss of 1.6. Now, if your SWR was really extreme, like 5 to 1 or 10 to 1, those SWR losses would go up very much. So, anyway, this is useful for picking what coax you want to use. It's also useful to see what the impact of SWR will be. And you notice with this example, 100 watts in, um, the power that you would get to the antenna is about 68 watts, you know. So, all right. Well, this was kind of a curveball for me. Copilot says improve signal quality. Well, actually, it can improve reception. Usually, when your SWR is good, the signal is stronger in your receiver. I'm not sure about this cleaner transmission part, but I know on the old style analog TVs, if you had a mismatch in the feed line, that you would get images and shadows and everything else. So, not sure about how important SWR is for the digital modes. I may have something to learn there. Um, a antenna analyzer can, through SWR readings and other things, can help you diagnose your system if it doesn't seem to be working right, to find faulty coax, connectors, maybe poor antenna placement, or incorrect antenna length or tuning. Okay. Um, well, when your rig shows an SWR, it's just at the frequency where your VFO on the rig is. But a antenna analyzer can sweep frequencies uh, across the spectrum or for a particular band and give you a graph of the SWR. So that is an advantage. And also, uh, if you're working with a resonant antenna like a half-wave dipole, it can show you where the minimum SWR is and help you to tune the antenna, so to speak, get it to the correct length. So here's an output of an antenna analyzer, and for 40 meters. And as you can see, it's telling you where the minimum SWR is. And actually, the SWR is pretty much under 2 to 1. But if you wanted to move that minimum to the upper part of the band, you would probably shorten your antenna. And as you do that in small steps, you can see how this curve moves. So that's very useful. And if I didn't say it before, uh, usually when you look at the SWR on your rig, it's putting out power and a signal that other people can hear. With a antenna analyzer, the power out is very minimal, so it shouldn't cause interference on the bands. So no matter what you do and how long you experiment, it shouldn't interfere with anybody else. All right. Well, now, frankly, there's features of these meters um, that I haven't used. Um, um, if you wanted to build a network of capacitors and inductors and so forth to help your antenna give you a 50 ohm load, um, an analyzer can help with that with Smith charts and so forth. That's really advanced application. And although I thought I would be doing that all the time, I've yet to really um, take advantage of it. But we all get into some kind of troubleshooting situation, and an analyzer will let you uh, figure out those problems off the air and pick up. Maybe you have water damage coax or a bad connector, adapter, so forth. And I believe later I saw somewhere where they said it's the multimeter of antennas. All right. Cable testing is along the same line. Tom W. D0HBR, also in Dothan, we did a little experiment measuring coax loss today. We'll update you on that. And field portability. That's really where um, these devices and the technology they can pack into them uh, and make them a battery powered design is uh, is very nice, particularly for field day, portable ops, tower work. Um, that's where these really pay off. And if you're heavy into the technical side and experimenting with antennas, or I'd say not necessarily heavy in the technical side, you just want to experiment with a lot of different kinds of antennas, getting them working, getting them tuned. Uh, that's where these analyzers really pay off. All right. So, do you need an antenna analyzer? I will say it's a useful shack accessory. It also can be used outside of the shack. As I mentioned, that you could call it the multimeter for antennas. Um, a disadvantage, it can be pricey depending on what frequency range you want to cover. And you should consider how much antenna work you're going to be doing. If you have a station with your antenna and it's working for you and you're happy with it, it's less of a motivation. uh, but if you want to try out different kinds of antennas, it's more of a motivation to have one. Um, Often you can borrow one from a friend or a local club. The Panama City Club, I believe, has one that can be loaned out. So, yes, your rig shows SWR. Some rigs, I'm calling it SWR map function, like the G90, will take a frequency range and check the SWR. That's very handy. Um, you may want a dedicated SWR meter. Um, you could get by with that. All right. But If you like to experiment with antennas, I would say yes, you need an antenna analyzer. And that is the bottom line here. Uh, I have I have more than two, but I have these two. The one on the left is from Rig Expert, and it's called the Stick Analyzer. It goes up to 230 megahertz. It's actually about $300, which is not super expensive. It charges with a USB. You take that cap off. It has a coax connector there. So I love it. um, the one on the right is the deluxe. Among the deluxe models, it goes to 1.5 gigahertz, but it definitely will cover you up to 70 centimeters over the 440 band and beyond. That drives the cost of it. It has many features, um, and obviously the SWR plots is one of those. But a feature I love is you can pick 5 frequencies um, and press a button, and it will measure the SWR on all those frequencies, in seconds. So I've got my favorite frequency. So say I'm hooking up to the hex beam, which covers multiple bands. I just press the button, it checks out all the bands. I'm good to go. So I really love that feature. You can also hook your analyzer to computer one way or the other. I exported these curves. These were of my end-fed antenna here at the shack. And so I'm I've got curves here for each of the bands that I use, and pretty much I can get by without a tuner with on almost all the bands. So last week we went into more depth about end-fed half-wave antennas. Here's this AA 1500 Rig Expert. Um, Tom has some coax that's been there for, let's just call it 50 years. It broke, fell down, but is it still usable? You know, not really from the break, but just from age, is it still usable? And so we tested the coax cable loss function, and actually, I was it didn't go as smooth as I thought, and I really believe that I need to update the firmware. It wasn't giving me many frequencies on the curve, at least useful ones. That's a different story, but we did get some numbers out of it. And I tested some of my coax, a 30-foot of RG8X. Um, by the calculator has a matched loss of 0.337 dB. We measured 0.57 dB, but we were using some adapters, some little things. Um, so it looks a little high to me, but nevertheless, we got a number out of it. And then I tried it with 75 feet, and the measured was 1.03 dB, and the frequency isn't exactly 20 meters, but it's close. And then the calculated match loss would be 0.81. Well, I actually used a feature that was beyond measuring SWR, and and there you have it. It turns out that Tom's coax, it's probably 70 feet, who knows? But nevertheless, we measured 1.3 dB, and it just turns out that that's a reasonable value. Uh, so, uh, so he's going to uh, uh, reterm it. Well, hook the coax back to the center of his dipole, fan dipole, and keep going with it. So this expensive analyzer has saved him some money. So thanks for your attention on that. Uh, we didn't go super in depth in all the features that you could do with these, but we're going to let our Zoom audience share what analyzers they may have used and how it was useful to them. So if our Zoom audience, who wants to be the first volunteer?
Well, I could jump in if you want, Greg.
Sure.
All right. Uh, First off, I use this guy here.
Well, let me
Yeah.
stop my share.
Okay.
Okay.
And I'll just go on
All
my
right.
camera. There it is. That's the one
Okay.
that Greg started with, the Swan, I believe. I found that that even works up into VHF pretty accurately. It's a nice little meter. Um, Next up, for VHF UHF, getting in higher frequency, you can get these guys out of China. It's going to cost you guys a little more money now, but that's another story. Um, the power up, they'll give you the frequency you're at, your USB, your SWR, and your power all simultaneously. So it gives you three things on the display. I don't have a signal going through it, or you would see the numbers come up in the thing here. Get the kind that comes with the usually an N connector on it, but you can get a converter with it. That's probably a wise option to get the SO239 adapters with it, or you can get them separately. Maybe you already own them. And then last but not least is the VNA, which, as you well know, I'm quite a fan of. So this thing is running in USB mode right now, so it's hooked up to my computer. The thing about the VNA is it's got two ports here. It's got S11, S21, and that lets you look at some stuff that a normal analyzer won't look at. In other words, you can look through things. So could I do a share, Greg?
Yes.
So this thing, like I said, is hooked up through my computer right now, and I quite often run it that way just because the screen is so small. It's very hard to work with, and it's a little bit cumbersome trying to pick out what menu you're running. If you are running this thing, I think they might come with a little cursor. And if you lose the cursor, I find a wooden toothpick works quite well for selecting what you want on it. Much easier is to use a program like this. So right now I'm sweeping from 3 megahertz up to 8 megahertz. I've done a single scan. I can do a continuous sweep, but occasionally this thing locks up because I'm doing several other things in the computer right now. So I'm just going to do a single sweep. So I'll do a single sweep right now. And there's my SWR. So the red marker I pre-positioned to about halfway through the 80-meter band. This is a fan dipole, 40-80 meter fan dipole. Oh, looks like my data stream is locking up. Okay, there we go. And I'm a little off frequency. So I'm, where would it actually be tuned to? Over here, it gives me 3.85. So I'm a little bit high on the 80-meter band for what I want. I happen to have a low SWR at 5.6. And then on 40 meters, 7.2 megahertz is way up here. So I'll click where I'm actually optimized. Oh, I picked the wrong one, but that's okay. Um, Looking at the red one, it's actually tuned to 6.85. So it's a little low in frequency. That antenna could be trimmed off then. Yeah, it's low in frequency. We want to bring it up. So we'd want to trim some off. So these antennas, these two dipoles I've had up for years, I could have done more careful work with them, but I haven't. Gives you actually where the markers are, what your frequency and impedance. If you want to get into the Smith chart, it'll do a time to main reflectometer. And this one here, S21 gain, is not applicable right now because I don't have anything hooked up to that port. But I've got a screen grab. That's another thing I like about this. I can store that screen grab, put it in a file, and go to it, years later and see, has that antenna been affected? This is not an antenna. This is a relay, and what I'm looking at is the throughput of the relay. So what I would do is put one end of the relay on one port, and through the relay, and then on the other side of the relay, the coax goes on the other port. And we get into what we call S21 gain, which means from this guy to this guy. And really, when you're checking Tom's coax, would probably be a little more accurate way of doing it than what the Rig Expert does. I'm not familiar with the Rig Expert, but I
Yeah.
imagine you just put a 50 ohm load at one end.
No,
Oh, it's looking at both ends at the same time?
no. Well, you got the analyzer, the coax, and
And what's it
obviously
called?
the coax is hooked to the analyzer. There's just one port. It asks you to have a open circuit,
Ah,
uh, and then it collects data, and then
oh,
it
okay.
asks for a short circuit, and it collects data.
Okay. Okay.
So
Yeah. That works. So this does essentially the same thing, but it's live. It actually measures the actual throughput instead of guessing
yeah,
based on the reading is got. It's a true throughput. So this
yeah,
this is a relay I looked at. So if we look at this here, my gain there is almost 0 dB. So there's virtually no loss on this relay. The relay that I replaced is this one. And if you look at its gain here, and this is at actually, I'm looking at it 2 meters, I think. Um, the gain was about 1 dB. So I'm losing 1 dB just going through this relay. I use these relays when I'm not at my station and I want to switch between antennas. There's a couple of them on the wall behind the rig. And if I'm down in Florida or wherever, I can actually change from my HF antenna to my 6 meter antenna. And my 2 meters, I can go from a Yagi to my satellite antenna and do this remotely. So these relays I've home brewed, I'm just wondering, do they work? Well, this one didn't work very well at all. So I changed the relay inside of it and had a marked improvement. So that was before, and this was after. You can see the gain going from in the end close to 0 to losing a dB through this relay,
yeah.
which is quite a thing.
Now,
Mm-hmm.
Chris, I believe a few years ago, you basically used it to test out a duplexer
Yeah, yeah,
design,
yeah. You
which is a
can,
different story, but finish
yeah,
this one. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
And for things like that, the S21 function is good because those graphs come up live on your screen. You can continuously do them. And as you're adjusting a variable capacitor on a duplexer, or let's say you're spreading apart the little coils, you can actually see the humps of your pass bands and your blocking bands come through live. It's really quite a tool. This was an antenna, a 40-meter antenna that had twisted around in the wind, and I went and untwisted it. So I had a low point of 6.86 down close to SWR of 1. And after untwisting it, it virtually made no difference, but it did move it a tiny bit closer to where I wanted to be. This is the 80-meter band, same thing. Actually, that's the one that had the twist in, but it affected the 40 meter. So it was 3.97 after I fixed the twist. And when it was twisted, it was virtually at 3.971 again. So it virtually made no difference having the tail of the 80 meter dipole wrap around itself on the way back, which kind of surprised me. I thought I'd see a great change straightening out this antenna, but I didn't. So, live and learn. Yeah, and that's a VNA. Now this model here is a little more pricey than the one that you had on your page. It's called Light VNA, and it will go up to 6 gigahertz, which is still 4 gigahertz short of where I'd like it to be, but it'll go up to 6 gigahertz. So for 1.3 gigahertz microwave, it's very handy for doing feed horns, all kinds of work that I'm doing currently. So that's my stuff. Back to you, Greg.
Well, that's good. That's awesome. I appreciate it. Uh, Ken, do you have an analyzer or just SWR meter or none of the above?
Yeah, I've got two or three things here. I don't know much about this stuff, but I've got let's see if I can get that thing to
Yeah, I could see it.
Well, I've got
Well, it's in and out, but
the Rig Expert 230. So
okay.
it'll go up to 230 megahertz. And then I've got
same as mine.
the MFJ version of what Chris was talking about. Of course, you can't get these anymore, but unless you find it used somewhere. But I keep one of these on the output of my radio all the time because I've found that sometimes I screw up my radio settings or whatever, but particularly doing digital, and it's just a little easier for me to see than looking at whatever the radio's putting out.
Right.
And then the other thing that I've got, and you can't get these anymore either, but it's a MFJ, and it will go down into the really low power settings. I'm playing this QRP sideband net on Sunday nights, and so I have used this to help me come up with a chart for setting. I have an attenuator. The radio stops at 5 watts, but I've got attenuators where I can turn it down to anything I want to. And so far, I've been able to get down to 20 milliwatts between here and Iowa. Anyway, that's what I've got.
Yeah. Well, I'll mention that the Rig Expert and similar, they're kind of purpose built for ham radio. So they try to give us just what we're interested in. They are easy to read out in the field. So I'd consider that a advantage, but they come at a price.
Yeah.
Of course,
Yeah,
they're not.
when I bought mine, they were significantly cheaper. I've had mine 7, 8 years.
Yeah.
But mine has flashlight batteries in it as opposed to rechargeable battery. But you probably could find some good used ones out there if you were looking.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, thank you. Jimmy has something to show.
Just a little nano VNA. We'll go from Chris's scientific laboratory to Jim's garage here. I use it to check the SWRs and make sure the coax cables are still good. And as you said, if you lose the pick that comes with it, I found that small guitar pick works extremely well.
Better than a toothpick, probably.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, let me do a little show and tell here too.
Okay, Tom.
Uh, we all have these, I guess. That's mine.
Oh,
Another one.
okay.
And I'll tell you what I use to move the cursor is I just use a pen with a plastic tip. Of course, you retract the ball, you know, you don't use the sharp point,
Yep.
but that works real well. It slides right across and does a good job. One thing I don't like about this was, I think, one of the first ones that came out. What was it, Greg? About $50? I think about
Could have
50.
been. Yeah. 60, 50, somewhere in
Yeah,
there.
Yeah, they run between 50 and 100. So,
yeah. This one has the smaller screen. If I were going to buy one now, I'd get the 4-inch.
Yeah.
You know, that'd be a lot easier. And also,
Yeah.
this is hard to look at in sunlight.
Hmm.
You have to cover up your head and all, and it works fine inside a dark room, but out in the open, which you may be finding yourself working on that, it's
Yeah.
kind of hard to read in sunlight. But I'll show you another thing. This is the one I used for years and years and years. I think you can't buy this anymore except use. See this?
Yeah. Is that a Drake?
It's a Drake. Yeah,
Okay.
it's a SWR and power. And I like it because it has a big dial, big meter. So I can see that pretty well. But yeah, it's very old. And
Yeah.
my last thing, some people like Greg get new stuff. Other people have this. That's
Okay.
what you
Oh,
started
yeah.
with.
Citizens Band. Yeah.
Yeah.
It works.
Yeah. And you didn't mention, this one has a port on the top here, and I added a piece of wire to it. And it attaches to the top. It's the RF field strength meter.
Yeah.
Okay.
And sometimes I find it handy in tuning something like the mag loop. Instead of trying to use SWR, I just tune for maximum power out.
Yeah.
Yeah. The
Looking at-
Swan's got a field thing too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
those are handy things to have. And this is probably a $5 garage sale deal.
Yeah. Well, I think
Anyway,
I mentioned, is it a necessity or a luxury? These fancy ones are a luxury unless you're doing antenna engineering. So, but if I looked around the room, I could find more devices of all types. I've got one which I don't have a picture of right now, but it's a expensive meter, measures power in SWR. And the interesting thing, you know, on sideband, you know, most meters you're going to be bouncing. You might try to look at an average. Well, this meter, what it does is it does that, but it comes up with just one number for power, which is a little different story. It also works from milliwatts to kilowatt. But anyway, it that's a different story. So really what made MFJ a huge company was they provided accessories to ham radio operators, and that's a big market. So you're bound to collect some accessories like this. Uh, Meters, I think they're just good just to monitor the situation and make sure nothing is wrong. And then if you want to investigate without putting any power out that will be heard, then the analyzer is a great tool. Oh, here we go.
Yep.
I saw That does everything.
Is that a new one, John?
The
Yeah, I got it back in January for
Mhm.
Winter Field Day, and I keep trying to build all kinds of dipoles, so it helps me test them. But yeah, it does pretty much everything, length of line. Yeah, very interesting little tool. They are a little more expensive. I got it on sale like 35% off on Amazon, but
So that's
it was still like $130. There's older versions you can get a lot cheaper.
so that's HF right to UHF, John? Yeah,
Yeah.
0.1 to 1300.
Yep.
Wow,
well, it's
cool.
of course it's not owned, but if it were owned, it's a touch screen menu system, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
good menu up front, right?
yeah. Well, that's
So,
one I don't have. I
Oh, you
tell
gotta
you.
get it, Greg.
and it was all open source. So the guy that built it in Russia originally, he left it open source. So there's all kinds of people making these and selling them online.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what happened with the Nano VNA. That's why it got so popular.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I panicked when the war started in Ukraine, so I said, if I'm going to buy an analyzer, I better buy it from Rig Expert. But of course, they seem to still be in business. So,
That looked like a pretty nice little unit, John. I like that.
yeah. Okay, we got K4LIX, Jim.
Yeah, all right. I got 5 of them for you. Let me go to them.
Yeah. I hope you have a U-Kits.
Okay.
But anyway,
Yeah, let me do everything. Am I on there? Oh, there I am.
it's
Oh,
starting up.
not
That's
very
your
big. Not very big.
your
What's the problem?
screen.
Oh, doesn't look like my screen. Oh, that's my screen?
Yeah, it's your whatever your
Home
desktop.
screen.
Oh, yeah, it is?
Yeah.
I don't see what I want to. It's not very big. What's the problem here?
Well,
Are you showing it full
we
screen?
see your full screen with
You see it
about
full screen?
100
Okay.
different
I
icons on
don't.
it.
Okay, I'm going to show you the first one.
Click on one.
Can you see that?
Yep.
Yep.
Can you see it real good?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. That's also the 230 zoom. That came out in late 2015. And N1 HQ and myself, we each bought one directly from the manufacturer in Ukraine. I think you go through dealers now. They're not made anymore. I don't have to tell you about it because a couple of people have already said everything. But gigahertz or gigaparts, whatever their name is,
Yeah.
they are selling refurbished 230 zooms. The zoom means you can zoom in the screen there. You can make it larger, zoom in and out. That's what the zoom means. They are selling them for $350 refurbished if you want to buy one. I have this one listed on QRZ.com right now for sale. Okay, the next one, where did it go? Can't find it. Hold on, let me find the next one. I'll move that down a little bit. Well, I have another one. Oh, you know what? It's over here behind behind all you guys. I got to get you out of the way. Here it is. All right. I don't think you showed a picture of that one, but you didn't show that one, did you?
No, and
Okay.
and I love it. I really do.
Well, I've had 4 of them over the years. 2 of them broke, and you can't get them repaired. Even they're made in China, I believe, but the dealer is in Canada. And if they break, it's just too bad. He'll be glad to sell you.
Yeah. Well,
I think they are around $200. I can't remember. This is the second generation.
yeah.
Is that you see? Yeah, well, you see it says MEM2. This one has
Yeah.
10 memories in it, or 8 memories. I forget how many. Whereas the first version did not have any memories. In other words, I can preset 8 different frequencies and just go to that using my memory mode and not have to
Yeah.
do anything around. So it keeps that. So that's the only difference. It's battery powered with a
Well,
14-volt rechargeable battery. And it was around $200, I think.
yeah.
I probably will sell one of them. I don't know why.
Well, UKITs about 10 years ago made QRP rigs and
Yes, they
the
did.
analyzer, and
Right.
they were popular and resold by various US companies, but eventually they stopped being available, and so
Yeah, I don't know
yeah.
if you can, is there any dealer that's handling them now?
I
that
don't
got them
think so. I
handled?
think it's
You don't think so? Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, they had some cheap radios, some $200 radios. And I think these were around 200. I can't remember exactly.
Yeah.
My first one got run over by a 3/4 ton pickup truck at field day. We were measuring some antennas before we set them up, and somebody came on the property and drove over it, didn't
Oh,
realize,
well,
we were doing antennas. The second one just quit, which was as I investigated with some Google search, many of them just quit, and nobody could figure out why. And I had one of those. So the two that I have now are two that I bought used, and that's one of them. So I'm going to go back to my desktop here where my camera is. Let me stop sharing, and you'll see what I have there. Okay, that's a Micronda made in Korea, and it measures forward power and reflected power, and it has a SWR scale on it also. And a lot of hams are confused. They think forward power is their output. Well, forward power is not your output. So here's how that works. Let's see if you can see it. Output is equal to your forward power minus your reflected power. So you have to have both of them to know what your output is, unless you have a meter that will read output. Now, there are meters that will read output, but this Micronda is not one of them. Probably have about 30 of these. I've been selling them on eBay and QRZ.com and at HamFest there for like $10 each. This also has a little port here where you can put a coat hanger in there and make it about 10 inches long, and you've got a field strength meter, and these are really good for tuning your loop antennas. You just tune them for maximum forward power. Don't worry about your SWR, because it is what it is. Your reflected power is what it is, and most of the time you can't do much about it. The term antenna tuner was not originally used when I got into the hobby. They were called transmatches, which means it matched the transmitter to the antenna. It doesn't really do anything to the antenna. If you've got an antenna with a 3-to-1 SWR on it, it still has 3-to-1 SWR.
Yeah.
When you auto tune it with your antenna tuner, it doesn't change the antenna.
Yeah. Well,
it just consumes the rest of what it needs to.
Yeah.
In the form of heat.
That's correct.
And releases it that way and sends the rest on to the antenna. So a lot of hams don't realize that the SWR on the antenna needs to be looked at also and corrected as best you can. If you're feeding a dipole, a half-wave dipole with RG8, you have a built-in minimum or built-in SWR of 1.25 before you even start, because the dipole has an impedance of 75 ohms and your radio has an impedance of 50 to 52 ohms. So that comes out to 1.25 SWR to start with. On top of a bad antenna, add to that. Okay.
Yeah.
A lot of hams don't really.
Well, one message if you are getting below 2-to-1, don't worry, you don't really have to optimize it beyond that.
Not make that much difference, really.
Yep.
Pretty much. Yeah, I'll even go to 3-to-1 sometimes.
Yeah, and sometimes a rig doesn't even mind.
I'll go to 3-to-1.
Some rigs
Okay, this is
will
a bird
still
watt
do all
meter.
right. Yeah.
This is a bird watt meter. It reads forward and reflected, and you can find these at Hempfest. This one is painted up like I did. I had a request from the original request came from one of the municipalities up in South Carolina. They wanted 3 watt meters painted orange so that they would know that they were theirs when they got mixed up with other municipalities. So I painted 3 orange ones, and somebody saw it and sent me a note and said, if I send mine to you, will you paint it? So I started painting them, and this one is like a camouflage or something like that. So I've probably done about 30 of these for different people and everything. This one has, I'll show you the back of it. This one, in addition to reading standard CW and FM power, it will read peak sideband power with that little converter board on the back there, which you can buy and put onto the meter there. So that's that one. And I've got one more to show you. Oh, go over here. I don't know if anybody, did somebody show that one yet?
I think I had yeah, well, just a photo of one. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's made by Nisi in Korea, I believe. I think that's where they are. And when they first came out, they were like $125, and I bought 2 of them. I think they still sell today, but they're over $200, it seems like. The price went up real quick on those. And they're very good at that. They measure forward. You can put them up there a little better. See if I can. Yeah. Nice big digits. It reads forward and reflected and then gives you its SWR. It calculates the SWR for you, but it's only good to 200 watts. And it has 2 different inputs. So you can put 2 different antennas or 2 different transmitters on it if you want to. And it goes up to VHF and UHF, it says. So that's kind of nice. The bird watt meter is limited to what you buy for this little element here called the slug or the element. It's power and frequency sensitive. So if you wanted to go from 2 meters to 440, you would have to have 2 of these to do that with to get an accurate reading. But you can use the elements for HF on 2 meters with just a slight error. You're actually, if you're tuning something, you're really only interested in maximum tuning on the meter. It doesn't really matter whether it's 98 watts or 100 watts. You just want to tune it to whatever the maximum is. And you don't really have to know that. I have had people, mainly CBers, I'm not really beating them down or anything. But I had one CBer tell me that a slug or element that I sold him was not properly calibrated because he knew he was putting out 100 watts, but it would only measure 98. So I told him, I said, if 2 watts makes a difference to you on 100 watts, you don't need a bird watt meter. A bird watt meter is a field instrument. You need a lab instrument, and they cost thousands of dollars. So that shut him up pretty fast. Okay.
Well, he was a little
There's 5 of them.
overpower. Yeah.
There's 5 of them there that I have. Okay.
Yeah, I appreciate everyone's attention and contributions and the show and tell. And so we're going to wind this up and roll it out to YouTube like we have many other topics. So thanks so much. 73.